Hi everybody, it's Oksana, and today I'm going to show you how to make this pendant right here. It was made with a front drilled bead. So it's drilled, the hole is right here, you can't see it anymore, but just right at the top there's a small hole. And I am using that hole to secure the bead, so I'm not just like ignoring it and wrapping it like a cabochon or anything like that. So if you want to see how to do this wrap, then just keep watching. So I have 3 pieces that are about 12 inches each. It's probably a little too long, but I like to have extra. And it's 20 gauge wire, and I kind of bent it in half just so I know where to start weaving, because I'm going to weave right in the middle. Then I have my front drilled bead. There's a little hole. It's about 1 inch tall. And finally I have my 26 gauge wire here. And if you are just starting out, I do find that 28 gauge copper is a little bit easier to weave with and work with than the 26, but obviously 26 goes a little quicker because it's thicker wire and you need less little loops for, the same distance. So it's up to you. I used 28 for a really long time, and I thought that was really nice to work with, but it's up to you. So I'm going to start by putting it right above this bottom wire. And I'm going to bring it up. And then from the back, I'm going to put it above the second wire, or the middle wire. And then I'm going to put it under that same wire. So it looks like I have a single loop around the bottom and then around the middle. And now I'm going to do the same thing with the top, bringing it above, over, and underneath the top, just like this. And now I'm bringing it above, kind of down the front here, past these 2 wires, bringing it to the back, bringing it up, bringing it in between the top 2 wires right here, bringing it down. And this is the pattern that we're going to be repeating. Basically looks like single wraps around each of the 3 wires, and then 2 wraps around these 2 and then the next 2. And I'm just going to keep going with that. So I'm going to do the bottom single loop again, the middle single loop, the top single loop, and now I'm going to go by 2s on the way down. So you're going by 1s on the way up and by 2s on the way down. So top 2 wires, bottom 2 wires. Here's what it's looking like so far. So it does look really nice once you kind of compress it as well. So I'm going to do that for about probably 1 inch, maybe a little bit less than 1 inch, like 3/4 of an inch, because that's what we're going to bend to create our bail. So if you want a really tall, big bail, obviously go for longer. If you want a little bail, go for shorter, but I'm going to do probably about 3/4 of an inch. So once you have a piece that's long enough, what you want to do is bend it, forming your bail. And here is my wire. It's connected to right here. I cut off the little tail where I started back here. So you want to hold it so that this is here towards the front and this is the back. And what you want to do now is we're kind of separating these back wires, and I'm taking the middle one of these back wires, and I'm taking my bead and I'm determining, so this is going to be my front and that's going to be my back. So I'm putting that middle back wire right through there, like this. And then with these here, we're going to separate them. So these left 2 are going left, and then this one is going right. Let me just kind of bend it a little bit. There we go. So here's what we have. And now what you want to do is this wire here that's coming right through the center of our bead, we are just gently turning it. So we are just turning that wire to the side. So now we have 2 wires going this way. Just kind of line it up with this wire to try and mimic 2 wires going this way. And then just make sure, like here you can kind of see, you can tighten that wire. I'm going to tighten it just a little bit. There's not a big gap there. There we go. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to weave with this wire. I'm just going to continue, and I'm going to weave on these two wires. So the one that's going through the bead and then this one next to it. And the pattern that I'm going to weave is going to be similar to what we did, but just on two wires. So my wire happened to be at the top, so I did one wrap around the top wire, and now I'm going to do one wrap around the bottom wire, and now I'm going to do one around both. And so now we're starting at the bottom. So bottom one wrap, top one wrap, and then both. And you want to keep going like that for a little bit. Alright, so I went just for a little bit, just kind of past this initial little curve. And now I'm taking one of these two wires, this one here, from the back, and I'm bringing it forward, kind of across the side of my bead, and I'm lining it up so that I have 3 wires instead of 2. And this bead will move around for a bit, so just let it do its thing and don't worry about it. And so having 3 wires now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to weave around those 3 wires. And I'm going to do the following pattern. I'm going to do 2 wraps around the bottom, or you can do the same one we did on the bail. That one just takes a little longer. And then 2 wraps around the top 2 wires. So just 2 and 2 basically. It's very basic kind of wrap to do. So I will tighten that up in a little bit here. But here's what it looks like when it's not tight. So once I am down to kind of the middle part here, I'm bending, this whole time I'm bending this kind of around my stone. So I'm here, I might have to undo just a few here. I'm not sure, it kind of depends how it's going to line up. So I cut my wire, left a little tail, and now I'm going to do the same exact thing on this side. I'm going to weave around these 2 wires, have it meet up with this 3rd one, and then weave that down just like I did on this side. So once you have both of your sides done, bring them together to make sure that the weave comes together nicely. You had a tail on this end, so if you need to weave a little more or undo a little bit, do that, and then cut it off once it's just the right distance. And what I did here is I kind of separated these wires out so it's easy for me to reach just these middle 2, because I want to weave just around those middle 2 wires. And I'm going to do the same weave that I did around the 2 wires right up here. So I'm just starting with a loop over both, and now I'm doing one, actually that might be a little backwards that I'm going with this, but that's fine. It's that loop in the very beginning that's a little off, but it's okay. The rest of the pattern's fine. So 1 loop over top, 1 loop over bottom, 1 loop over both. 1 loop over top, because I was kind of starting out at the top, so this ended up being a little different. The other one we did bottom, top, both, and this one's top, bottom, both. But it doesn't really matter. Do whatever pattern you want, just like this around both, and then tighten it up nicely. We want this to be just a little longer than I have it here, because we want to be able to bring it to the back. You can start bringing it to the back as early as, right now if you want to. And see how you can kind of see through that little hole, those 2 wires. So I want the weave to continue to maybe like right there. So I finished this weave right here. I cut my weaving wire off, and now I'm coming back around to the front. So I had 2 wires coming out the side here and 2 wires coming out the side here. So these 2 I just bent upwards, because the goal is to weave on the 2 of them and then tuck them in through here, right through there. So I'm going to end up doing that to this side as well, but I'm starting off just with one of the sides. So you can choose whatever weaving pattern you would like. I think I'm going to do the one where I do like one loop. I'll show you. It's like one loop around both of them and then a bunch of loops around. This is kind of hard. I'm doing this kind of backwards, but so here's my 2 wires. And I'm basically going around the bottom one like 4 times. So 1, 2, 3, and 4, and then going around both of them once, and now going around the bottom one again 4 times. 1, 2, 3, 4. Just easier for me to hold it backwards like this. But that's the pattern. I know it's all spread apart right now, but that's the pattern that I'm going to be weaving on this, just up until it gets to like right there. Alright, so I went ahead and I did that on both sides. I took the 2 wires that were sticking out here and I just kind of bent them right underneath these 2. Or you can put them over, it doesn't matter. Basically something's going to go over and something's going to go under, so it doesn't really matter which side is which. So these are both high enough where I can put them through these little gaps. And I'm just going to go ahead and do that. So here I'm bending it, bringing these wires to the back, and then here I'm taking one of these 2 wires that's kind of popping up here, and I'm going to cut these, but I'm just going to wrap these 2 around it just to secure them, and then I'll cut the ends and it'll just be like a little loop that's attaching these. See, they're both, I'm going to cut it and loop it. They'll be attached. So you want to mess around with this. I kind of started to do that a little bit here to get a nice shape. It's nice if it kind of follows this here, like that. And it also kind of covers our bead just a little bit here on the edge. It's going to prevent your bead from popping forward. So now I'm going to do the same thing here on this side. Alright, so now I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to take this and loop it around this other second wire back here. Alright, now I'm going to take my wire cutters, cut up all the ends, leave just a little bit, enough to grab with my round nose pliers, and just close up the loops like this. I want to kind of turn this one so it's just a tiny bit. Here I'm going to use my flat nose pliers. My needle nose pliers. There we go. So it's like a little flatter. I don't want it sticking up. And the same thing on the other side. Close up those loops. So now we just have, it's looking a little crooked. There we go. Just have these 2 wires. And what I want to do with those is I want to coil my weaving wire around them, just a single coil all the way up, and I'm going to cross them over like this, or you can just, if you like the look, you could just cross them over like this, uncoiled. Let's see what that would look like. So that looks nice as well. It just depends on what you prefer. But I'm going to go ahead and coil them, and then, you know, essentially do what I just showed you. Alright, so I'm where I was before, but I got my coils now on my wires, and I am going to stick them through. See that little hole in there? Stick it right through that little gap. And we can adjust that later. Just get them in for now. I'm going to do my other one. And I made sure that when I did my little coil, it was a little longer so that you can see the coils going here, so that you don't see like any bare wire exposed like at the very end or anything. Oh, I hate it when little gaps form in my coil. I'm gonna have to try and fix that. So you can kind of mess around trying to get that all perfect and centered. But that's the gist of it. And the back, all that's left to do is to secure these around something. However you want to do it is fine. I'm just going to kind of cross mine over. I'm going to take this here. If you hear some whispering, my little one is here playing. So I'm just making a little loop, closing that up, and I'm going to have to cut this a little bit so I can do the same thing using my round nose pliers. Just going to make a little loop and connect it to that base wire. So that's basically it. It's all secured. And here is what our finished pendant looks like. I'll show you a little clip of what it looks like once I oxidize the copper. Alright, so here's what it looks like once I oxidized it, and I do have a video on how to oxidize raw copper jewelry. So if you need to know that, then I will link that video below. So here's the finished result. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.